The small town of Millbrook was still dark when Thomas Whitmore unlocked his bakery door at 4 in the morning. He had been doing this same routine for 23 years now. First, he would turn on all the lights. Then he would start the big ovens in the back. Finally, he would begin making fresh bread and pastries for the people of his town. Thomas was a simple man in his late 50s. His hair was gray, and his hands were rough from years of kneading dough. He lived alone in the small apartment above his bakery. His wife, Margaret, had died from cancer 5 years ago, and since then the bakery had become his whole life. It was the only thing that gave him purpose anymore. This November morning was colder than usual. Thomas could see his breath in the air as he prepared the dough for his famous cinnamon rolls. Everything seemed normal until he heard a strange noise coming from behind the building. At first, Thomas thought it might be a raccoon going through his trash. This happened sometimes. But when he opened the back door to check, he heard something different. It sounded like crying. Soft, scared crying. Thomas grabbed his flashlight and walked slowly toward the dumpster. His heart was beating fast. He did not know what he would find. When he looked behind the dumpster, he froze completely. There was a small creature sitting in the corner, trying to eat old moldy bread from his garbage. But this was not a dog or a cat, or any animal Thomas had ever seen before. This was something else entirely. The creature was small, about the size of a 3-year-old child. Her skin was pale purple, almost lavender in color. She had huge violet eyes that looked up at Thomas with pure terror. Her tiny hands had only 3 fingers each, and they were shaking badly from the cold. She looked sick and starving. Thomas knew immediately what she was. She was an alien. 3 years ago, everything had changed on Earth. Alien spaceships had crashed in different places around the world. The news said these aliens were running away from a big war in space. Some of them were friendly, but many people were afraid. Governments tried to help, but there were too many aliens and not enough resources. Many aliens ended up living on the streets with no food and no home. Most people in Millbrook did not worry much about aliens. The town was small and far away from big cities, but Thomas watched the news every night. He saw how people treated the aliens with fear and anger. The government had warned everyone to stay away from aliens because some of them could be dangerous. But looking at this tiny, starving creature shaking in the cold, Thomas did not see danger. He only saw a scared, hungry child. "Hey there," Thomas said softly, trying not to frighten her more. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The little alien girl pressed herself harder against the wall. She clutched the moldy bread to her chest like it was treasure. Thomas's heart broke seeing her like this. Slowly, very slowly, Thomas knelt down on the cold ground. He was now at her eye level. He reached into his apron pocket and pulled out a fresh cinnamon roll. It was still warm from the oven. The sweet smell filled the air. "Here," Thomas said gently, holding out the cinnamon roll. "This is much better than that old bread. Take it, please." The alien child stared at the food in his hand. Her big violet eyes moved from the cinnamon roll to Thomas's face and back again. She was trying to decide if she could trust him. Thomas stayed very still and kept smiling softly. After what felt like forever, the little girl reached out with her small 3-fingered hand. She snatched the cinnamon roll quickly, like she thought Thomas might change his mind. Then she ate it so fast that Thomas worried she might choke. When she finished eating, tears started rolling down her purple cheeks. She made small crying sounds, but Thomas could tell these were not sad tears. These were tears of relief and gratitude. Thomas felt tears in his own eyes, too. He did not know anything about this alien child. He did not know where she came from or if helping her was legal. The government had very strict rules about aliens. If anyone found out what he was doing, he could get in serious trouble. But Thomas looked at those huge, grateful violet eyes, and he made a decision. He could not walk away from a hungry child, no matter what planet she came from. His late wife, Margaret, had always taught him that kindness was the most important thing in life. She would have done the same thing. "You can come back tomorrow morning," Thomas whispered to the little alien girl. "Same time. I'll have more food for you. Do you understand?" The alien child tilted her head, watching him carefully. Thomas was not sure if she understood his words, but something in her expression changed. The fear in her eyes became a little less. Thomas stood up slowly and backed away toward his bakery door. The alien girl watched him go, but did not run away this time. When Thomas reached his door, he turned back one more time. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said softly. "I promise." Then Thomas went back inside his bakery to start his day. But everything felt different now. He had just made a choice that would change his life forever. He had no idea that this small act of kindness would one day save his entire town. Outside, behind the dumpster, the small alien child finished licking the last bits of cinnamon and sugar from her fingers. For the first time in many weeks, she felt hope. Maybe not all humans were bad. Maybe this one human would help her survive. As the sun began to rise over Millbrook, neither Thomas nor the alien girl knew that they had just started something special. A friendship was beginning that would grow into something powerful and amazing. But for now, it was just a baker and a starving child, connected by one warm cinnamon roll on a cold November morning. The next morning came quickly. Thomas barely slept the whole night. He kept thinking about the small purple girl hiding behind his dumpster. What if she did not come back? What if someone else found her first? What if she was too scared to trust him again? At 3:30 in the morning, Thomas got out of bed. This was 30 minutes earlier than his normal time. He went downstairs to his bakery kitchen and started working faster than usual. Today he made extra cinnamon rolls, fresh bread with butter, apple turnovers, and even heated up some chicken soup left over from his dinner. When 4:30 came, Thomas carefully packed everything into a clean wooden box. He added a soft blanket that used to belong to his wife, Margaret. The morning was freezing cold, and he worried the little alien girl might die from the cold before hunger even killed her. Thomas walked to the back door with his heart pounding like a drum. What if she was not there? He took a deep breath and opened the door slowly. She was there. The little purple girl was sitting in the exact same spot, pressed against the wall near the dumpster. When she saw Thomas, her whole body went stiff with fear. But this time, she did not try to run away. She just watched him with those huge, violet eyes. "Good morning," Thomas said quietly. He placed the wooden box on the ground and pushed it toward her gently. Then he stepped back several feet to give her space. The alien girl looked at the box suspiciously. She sniffed the air, and Thomas could tell she smelled the fresh food. Slowly, like a wild animal approaching a trap, she crawled forward. Her movements were strange and graceful at the same time, not quite human. When she reached the box, she opened it and gasped. Her violet eyes went wide with surprise. She had probably never seen so much food in one place before. She grabbed a cinnamon roll with both hands and ate it in just 4 bites. Then she grabbed the bread, then the apple turnover. Thomas watched her eat with a sad smile on his face. How long had this child been starving? How many nights had she spent in the cold, searching through garbage for anything to eat. "Slow down," Thomas said gently. "You'll make yourself sick eating so fast." The girl paused and looked up at him. Thomas realized she probably could not understand English, but something in his tone made her eat a little slower. When she found the warm soup, she held the container with both hands like it was made of gold. She drank it carefully, and Thomas saw steam rising from the soup into the cold air. After she finished eating, the alien girl wrapped herself in the blanket Thomas had brought. She looked at him for a long moment, and then she did something that surprised him. She placed one small three-fingered hand over her heart and bowed her head slightly. Thomas understood. She was saying thank you in her own way. "You're welcome," Thomas whispered. "I'll come back tomorrow, same time." And so began their routine. Every single morning at 4:30, Thomas would bring fresh food in the wooden box. At first, the alien girl would just grab the food and eat it quickly. She never stayed long. She never came close to Thomas. But she always came back. After 2 weeks, something changed. The alien girl started staying a little longer after eating. She would sit wrapped in the blanket and watch Thomas through the back door window as he worked in his kitchen. Thomas would wave at her sometimes, and she would tilt her head in that curious way of hers. By the 3rd week, Thomas started talking to her while she ate. He would sit on the back steps of his bakery, keeping a respectful distance, and just talk about his day. "The weather is getting colder," he would say. "Winter is coming soon. I hope you have somewhere warm to sleep." Or he would tell her about his customers. "Mrs. Peterson came in today. She always complains that my croissants are too buttery, but she buys 6 of them every week, so I think she's lying." The alien girl never responded, but Thomas could tell she was listening carefully. Her violet eyes would follow his mouth as he spoke, like she was trying to learn his language just by watching him. One morning in December, Thomas brought hot chocolate, along with the usual food. The alien girl took one sip, and her eyes went even wider than normal. She made a small sound that almost sounded like a happy laugh. It was the first time Thomas had heard her make any sound, except crying. "You like that, huh?" Thomas chuckled. "Hot chocolate is pretty amazing. My wife used to make it for me on cold mornings, just like this one." As the weeks turned into months, Thomas noticed the alien girl was changing. She was growing taller and stronger. Her purple skin looked healthier now, with a soft glow instead of that sickly pale color from before. She moved with more confidence and less fear. By January, she was sitting much closer to Thomas during their morning meetings. Only about 6 feet away now instead of 20 feet. She still did not speak, but sometimes she would make small gestures with her hands, almost like she was trying to communicate. Thomas also noticed she was incredibly smart. One morning he was showing her a picture book through the window, pointing at different objects and saying their names in English. The next day, when he pointed at those same objects, she nodded like she remembered. The people of Millbrook had no idea what was happening behind Thomas's bakery every morning. They came to his shop, bought their bread and pastries, and went about their normal lives. Thomas was always friendly and smiled at everyone, but inside he carried this beautiful secret. He was saving a life, one warm meal at a time. And though Thomas did not know it yet, this little alien girl was learning something very important from him. She was learning that kindness existed in the universe, that not all humans were cruel or afraid, that love could be given freely without asking for anything in return. These lessons would matter very much in the days to come. Spring came to Millbrook, and with it came changes that Thomas never expected. The little alien girl was not so little anymore. In just 6 months, she had grown from the size of a small child to almost as tall as Thomas himself. She now stood about 5 feet and 4 inches tall. Her body had changed, too. She looked less like a child and more like a young teenager. Her face had become more defined, with high cheekbones and a delicate jaw. Her violet eyes were still large, but now they held intelligence and awareness that sometimes startled Thomas. Thomas realized that her species must age differently than humans. What took humans 15 years to grow seemed to take her species only months. He wondered how old she really was in her own people's time. But the biggest change came on a warm April morning when Thomas brought her usual breakfast. He was telling her about a funny customer from the day before when she suddenly spoke. Thomas, just one word, his name. But it was the first word she had ever said out loud. Thomas dropped the coffee cup he was holding. It shattered on the ground, but he did not even notice. He stared at her with his mouth open in complete shock. You can talk?" he stammered. The alien girl nodded slowly. Her voice was beautiful and musical, like wind chimes singing in a gentle breeze. "Yes, I learn. I listen you every day. I practice when alone." Thomas felt tears running down his face. He did not even try to wipe them away. "How long have you been able to talk?" 2 weeks, she said carefully, choosing each word with concentration. "I want to be sure. I want to say correct words. I want to say, thank you." She stepped closer to Thomas, closer than she had ever been before. Then she did something that made Thomas's heart feel like it might burst. She hugged him. Her thin arms wrapped around him tightly, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "Thank you, Thomas," she whispered. "You save my life. Every day, you save my life." Thomas hugged her back, crying openly now. For 5 years since Margaret died, he had felt so alone. Now somehow, he had found family again in the most unexpected way. Over the next few weeks, the alien girl's English improved quickly. She told Thomas her story in bits and pieces, sometimes struggling to find the right words. Her name was something beautiful but impossible for Thomas to pronounce. It sounded like music more than a word, so Thomas asked if she would mind if he gave her a human name. "I call you Luna in my head," Thomas admitted, "because you only used to come in the dark, before the sun rose, like the moon." The girl smiled. It was the first time Thomas had seen her truly smile. "Luna?" she repeated. "I like this name. I am Luna now." Luna explained that her people were called the Vel'shara. They came from a planet very far away, so far that Thomas could not even imagine the distance. Her planet had been destroyed in a terrible war between 2 powerful alien empires. The Vel'shara did not want to fight in this war. They just wanted peace. So they ran away. Thousands of Vel'shara refugee ships tried to escape through space. But many ships were damaged and crashed on different planets. Luna's family was on one of those ships that crashed on Earth, in the mountains near Millbrook. "My mother and father," Luna said quietly, looking down at her hands. "They die in crash. I am alone. I walk for many days. So hungry, so cold. Then I find your bakery. I find you." Thomas held her hand gently. "I'm so sorry about your parents, Luna, but I'm grateful you found me. You're not alone anymore." Luna looked up at him with those incredible violet eyes. "You are my family now, Thomas. You are like father to me." Those words meant everything to Thomas. He had never had children with Margaret. They had always wanted to, but it never happened. Now, in the strangest way possible, he had a daughter, but their peaceful life was about to become very complicated. Thomas had been watching the news every night, and he did not like what he saw. All across America, fear of aliens was growing stronger. A group called Earth First was spreading messages of hate. They said all aliens were dangerous. They said aliens should be locked up or sent away, even the peaceful ones who had nowhere to go. Several towns had already started forcing aliens to register with the government. Some aliens who registered simply disappeared, and no one knew where they went. Other aliens were attacked by angry mobs and hurt badly or killed. Millbrook had been quiet so far, but Thomas heard whispers in his bakery. Some of his customers were starting to talk about aliens with fear and anger. Deputy Jake Morrison, a young police officer with a mean streak, had become very vocal about joining Earth first. "We need to protect our town," Jake said loudly in the bakery one morning, "before those creatures bring their problems here." Thomas smiled politely and said nothing, but inside he felt cold fear. What would happen if people discovered Luna? Would they see her as he did, as a gentle girl who just wanted to live in peace? Or would they see her as a threat? Luna was growing stronger and taller every day. Soon Thomas would not be able to hide her behind the bakery anymore. She would need real shelter, real clothes, a real life. But how could he give her those things without the whole town finding out? One evening, as they sat together on the back steps, sharing a loaf of warm bread, Thomas made a decision. "Luna," he said seriously, "things are getting dangerous for your people. I think we need to figure out a plan. Maybe I can sneak you somewhere safe, somewhere far from here." But Luna shook her head firmly. "No, Thomas, I will not leave you. You are my family. I stay and protect you." "Protect me?" Thomas laughed nervously. "Luna, you're just a kid. I should be protecting you." Luna looked at him with an expression that was suddenly much older than her months on Earth. "I am Vel'shara," she said quietly. "My people are more than you know. When I am full grown, I will be strong. Very strong. Strong enough to keep you safe." Thomas did not fully understand what she meant, but he felt a chill run down his spine that was not entirely from fear. There was something in Luna's eyes, something ancient and powerful, that reminded him she was not human, no matter how much he had come to think of her as his daughter. The storm was coming to Millbrook. Thomas could feel it. He just hoped that when it arrived, he and Luna would be ready to face it together. Summer arrived in Millbrook, and with it came trouble that Thomas had been dreading for months. The town council held a meeting in the old community center on a hot Tuesday evening. Thomas attended, sitting quietly in the back row. His stomach was twisted in knots. He knew what this meeting was about before anyone even spoke. Mayor Richard Barnes stood at the front of the room, looking uncomfortable. He was a good man, but Thomas could see the pressure on his face. Behind the mayor stood Deputy Jake Morrison, with his arms crossed, looking proud and angry at the same time. "Folks, I'll get straight to the point," Mayor Barnes began. "The state government has issued new requirements. All towns must register any aliens living within their borders. This is for everyone's safety." The room erupted with voices. Some people seemed relieved. Others looked worried. Thomas said nothing. His hands gripped the edge of his chair so tightly, his knuckles turned white. Jake Morrison stepped forward, not waiting for the mayor to finish. "It's about time," Jake said loudly. "We've been too soft. I have reports that aliens have been spotted right here in Millbrook, living in shadows, stealing from us. Who knows what else they're planning?" "That's not fair, Jake," said Mrs. Chen, the old librarian. "We don't even know if there are any aliens here, and if there are, maybe they're just trying to survive like anyone else would." "Survive?" Jake's face turned red with anger. "Tell that to the people in Chicago who got killed last month. Tell that to the families in Denver whose homes got destroyed. These creatures are dangerous. Thomas wanted to stand up and shout that Jake was wrong. Luna had never hurt anyone. She was kind and gentle and good. But speaking up would only put her in danger. So Thomas stayed silent, hating himself for his cowardice. The mayor raised his hands for quiet. Everyone calm down. Look, I don't like this any more than some of you do, but it's the law now. Starting next week, we'll have checkpoints. Anyone harboring an unregistered alien will face serious criminal charges. That could mean jail time. The meeting continued for another hour, but Thomas barely heard any of it. His mind was racing. He had 1 week, just 1 week, to figure out how to keep Luna safe. When Thomas got home that night, Luna was waiting for him in the small storage room behind the bakery. This had become her home over the past few months. Thomas had brought her a cot, blankets, books, and a small lamp. It was not much, but it was better than sleeping outside. Luna took one look at Thomas's face and knew something was very wrong. "What happened?" she asked immediately. Thomas sat down heavily on an old flour barrel. He suddenly felt very tired and very old. "They're coming, Luna. The town is setting up checkpoints. They're looking for aliens. If they find you, they will take me away," Luna finished quietly, "or worse." Thomas put his head in his hands. "I've been thinking all day. Maybe I can hide you in my car and drive you to Canada. Or maybe we can find one of those underground groups that help aliens escape. There has to be something." "No, Thomas." "Luna, please. You don't understand how dangerous this is." "I understand perfectly." Luna knelt down in front of Thomas so she could look directly into his eyes. She was now taller than him when standing, almost 6 feet tall. Her features had matured even more. She looked like a young woman now, strong and confident. "I understand that you are afraid for me. I understand that you love me. But I will not run away and leave you here alone. If you stay, they'll find you eventually," Thomas said desperately. "This town is too small. Someone will see you. Someone will report us." Luna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that shocked Thomas completely. "Then maybe it is time they know the truth. Maybe it is time I stop hiding. Are you crazy? They'll hurt you." "Perhaps," Luna said calmly. "Or perhaps if they meet me, if they see I am not a monster, they will understand." "You taught me that humans can be kind, Thomas. You proved it every single day for 8 months. Maybe other humans can learn kindness too." Thomas shook his head. "Luna, you're too optimistic. People are scared right now. Fear makes them do terrible things. I've seen it on the news every night. Mobs attacking aliens. Families getting torn apart. I can't let that happen to you." But Luna had a stubborn look in her violet eyes that Thomas had come to recognize. Once she made up her mind about something, she did not change it easily. The decision was taken out of their hands 3 days later. It was a Friday afternoon and the bakery was busy. Thomas was serving customers when he noticed Deputy Jake Morrison standing across the street, watching the shop. Jake was not alone. He had 3 other men with him, all wearing Earth First armbands. Thomas's blood ran cold. He quickly finished with his customers and locked the front door, flipping the sign to closed, even though it was only 3 o'clock. He ran to the back room. "Luna, we have to go. Right now." But before Luna could even respond, they heard loud banging on the front door. "Thomas Whitmore!" Jake's voice shouted from outside. "Open this door. We have a warrant to search your property." Thomas and Luna looked at each other. This was it. The moment they had both feared was finally here. "The window," Thomas whispered urgently. "You can climb out the back window and run to the woods." But Luna squeezed his hand and smiled sadly. No more running, Thomas. No more hiding. You taught me to be brave. Now let me be brave." Before Thomas could stop her, Luna walked toward the front of the bakery. Thomas followed her, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Luna unlocked the door and pulled it open. Jake Morrison stood there with his hand on his gun. Behind him, a small crowd had gathered, some curious, some excited, some afraid. Word had spread quickly that something was happening at the bakery. When they saw Luna standing in the doorway, tall and alien and undeniably not human, the crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Jake immediately drew his weapon and pointed it directly at Luna's chest. "Step away from it, Thomas," Jake yelled. "That thing is dangerous." "Her name is Luna," Thomas said, moving to stand beside her. His voice shook, but he did not back down. "And she's not dangerous. She's just a girl who needed help." "A girl?" Jake laughed harshly. "That's an alien, Thomas. You've been breaking the law. Harboring an unregistered alien is a federal crime now." More people were gathering. Thomas recognized his customers, his neighbors, people he had known for 20 years. Some faces showed sympathy. Others showed fear and anger. Luna raised her hands slowly, showing she had no weapons. "Please," she said, in her musical voice, "I do not want trouble. Thomas helped me when I was starving. He showed me kindness. That is all." "Save your speech," Jake snarled. "You're coming with us." That's when Thomas saw Jake's finger move toward the trigger. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Thomas opened his mouth to shout, "No!" But Luna was faster than any human could be. She moved like lightning, stepping in front of Thomas protectively. Her body began to glow with a soft purple light. The purple glow around Luna's body grew brighter, and the crowd stepped back in fear. Jake's hand trembled on his gun, but he did not pull the trigger. Something about the way Luna stood there, calm and powerful, made even him hesitate. "Put the gun down, Jake," said a strong voice from behind the crowd. Sheriff Margaret Chen pushed her way through the people. She was a tough woman in her 60s who had been keeping peace in Millbrook for 30 years. Everyone respected her, even Jake. "Sheriff, this man is harboring an illegal alien." Jake started to argue. "I said put it down," Sheriff Chen repeated firmly. "Nobody is shooting anyone in my town today." Jake slowly lowered his weapon, but his face was full of anger. The crowd was growing larger by the minute. Thomas could hear people whispering and pointing at Luna. Some had their phones out, recording everything. Sheriff Chen looked at Luna carefully, then at Thomas. "Thomas, is what Jake says true? Have you been hiding her all this time?" Thomas nodded. "Yes, Sheriff, but she's not what you think. She's never hurt anyone. She was just a starving child when I found her. I couldn't let her die." "The law is the law," Jake interrupted. "They both need to be arrested right now." Sheriff Chen held up her hand for silence. She studied Luna for a long moment. "What's your name, girl?" "Luna," she answered quietly. "I am Vel'shara. My people's ship crashed in the mountains 8 months ago. My family died. Thomas saved my life." "And in those 8 months, have you hurt anyone? Stolen anything besides garbage?" the sheriff asked. "No, ma'am, never. I only wanted to survive." The sheriff looked thoughtful. "Thomas, you should have come to me. We could have figured something out legally." "Would you have helped her?" Thomas asked. "Or would you have sent her to one of those government camps that everyone talks about? The ones where aliens go in and never come out?" The sheriff did not answer because she had no good answer to give. That's when things went terribly wrong. A man in the crowd suddenly threw a rock. It flew through the air and hit Luna in the shoulder. She stumbled back, surprised more than hurt. Go back to your own planet, the man shouted. Yeah, we don't want you here. Another voice yelled. More rocks started flying. The crowd was turning into an angry mob. Sheriff Chen tried to restore order, but there were too many people, and only one of her. Thomas threw himself in front of Luna, trying to shield her with his own body. A rock hit him in the head, and he felt warm blood running down his face. Thomas! Luna caught him before he fell. Her violet eyes were wide with fear, not for herself, but for him. Jake Morrison saw his opportunity. While everyone was distracted by the chaos, he raised his gun again and fired 3 shots directly at Luna. The sound of gunfire made everyone freeze and go silent. But Luna did not fall. The bullets hung in the air, inches from her body, stopped by some invisible force. The purple glow around her intensified until it was almost blinding. Slowly, the bullets dropped harmlessly to the ground. The crowd stared in shock and terror. I do not want to fight, Luna said, her voice carrying across the street with unexpected power. But I will not let you hurt Thomas. He is the only family I have. Jake's face went pale. He had just emptied his gun at her, and she had not even flinched. For the first time, real fear showed in his eyes. Now, before anyone could react, a massive explosion shook the entire town. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Black smoke rose from somewhere in the distance toward the east side of Millbrook. What was that? Someone in the crowd screamed. Another explosion followed, this time closer, then another. Orange flames lit up the afternoon sky. Sheriff Chen's radio crackled to life. Sheriff, the old warehouse district is on fire. Multiple buildings are burning. We need help right now. But that was not all. Another voice came through the radio, panicked and frightened. Sheriff, armed men are attacking the grocery store. They have guns and they're destroying everything. This is dispatch. Fire reported at the elementary school. Repeat, the elementary school is burning. Thomas felt like the world was spinning. What was happening? Why was the whole town suddenly under attack? Jake Morrison's radio also came alive with desperate calls for help. His face changed from angry to confused to worried in just seconds. Sheriff Chen grabbed Jake's arm. Forget about the alien for now. Our town is burning. We need every person to help. She looked at Luna with uncertainty. Can you help us? Luna did not hesitate. Where do you need me? Within minutes, Thomas understood what was really happening. This was not random chaos. This was planned. Earth First had decided that if they could not legally remove aliens from towns, they would create chaos and blame it on the aliens. They would burn their own town and tell everyone it was Luna's fault. Jake Morrison had not known about this plan. He was just a young deputy with bad ideas, but he was not a terrorist. When he realized what his Earth First friends were doing, his face went white with horror. "Oh my God," Jake whispered. "They said they just wanted to scare people. They said no one would get hurt. They promised me." "You fool," Sheriff Chen said angrily. "You brought these monsters to our town." The radio reports kept coming, that each one worse than the last. The library was on fire. Someone had set explosives at the water treatment plant on the edge of town. Armed men were going house to house, threatening families and looting stores. Millbrook was tearing itself apart. Thomas looked at Luna, and his heart broke. This was exactly what he had feared. But it was not the townspeople attacking Luna. It was Earth First, using Luna as an excuse to unleash violence and destruction. Luna's violet eyes blazed with determination. "Thomas, I must go help them." "No, it's too dangerous." Thomas grabbed her arm desperately. "People are dying." Luna said simply. "Children are in danger. I can help them, Thomas. I am strong enough now. You're just one person against dozens of armed men." Luna touched his face gently with her three-fingered hand. "You taught me that one person's kindness can change everything. You fed one starving alien when you could have walked away. Now let me show you what that kindness created." She kissed his forehead softly. Then she turned and ran toward the smoke and flames faster than any human could run. Thomas tried to follow, but Sheriff Chen stopped him. "Thomas, you're bleeding. You need medical attention. I have to help her." Thomas struggled against the sheriff's grip. "The best way to help her is to stay alive," Sheriff Chen said firmly. "Come on. We need to coordinate rescue efforts. If that girl is really going to try to save this town, then we better make sure we're ready to help however we can." As they rushed toward the sheriff's office, Thomas looked back one last time. He saw Luna's glowing purple form disappearing into the smoke and chaos, and he prayed to whatever god might be listening that the girl he had saved with cinnamon rolls and kindness would survive this nightmare. His daughter was going to war to protect his town, and all Thomas could do was hope she would come back alive. The sun was setting over Millbrook, painting the sky orange and red like the fires burning throughout the town. Luna moved through the smoke-filled streets like a ghost, her purple glow cutting through the darkness. Her first stop was the elementary school where 30 children and 4 teachers were trapped inside by the flames. The Earth First terrorists had locked all the exits from the outside. Luna could hear the children screaming and crying through the windows. She did not hesitate. Luna ran straight through the front doors, breaking them apart like they were made of paper. Inside, the fire was spreading fast. The smoke was thick and black. Luna found the children and teachers huddled in a corner classroom, terrified and coughing. "Follow me," Luna shouted. "Stay close and keep low." The teachers stared at her in shock. They had probably never seen an alien before, especially not one glowing like a purple star, but they were desperate and had no choice but to trust her. Luna led them through the burning hallways. When falling debris blocked their path, she lifted the heavy beams and threw them aside with her bare hands. When flames got too close, that strange energy field around her body pushed the fire back, creating a safe path. She got all 30 children and 4 teachers out safely. They collapsed on the grass outside, crying with relief. Some of the children hugged Luna's legs, not caring that she was alien. She had just saved their lives. But Luna had no time to rest. She heard more explosions coming from across town. At the grocery store, 5 Earth First members were smashing windows and threatening the owner, Mr. Patterson, an old man who could barely walk. They had guns and were shouting about purifying the town and sending a message. Luna appeared so suddenly that 2 of the men actually screamed. She moved faster than they could react, taking their guns away before they could even aim. She did not hurt them badly, just enough to stop them. She tied them up using electrical cords from the store and left them for the sheriff to collect later. "Thank you," Mr. Patterson whispered, tears in his eyes. "God bless you, child." Luna nodded and ran toward the next crisis. Her body was getting tired, but she could not stop, not while people needed help. The worst attack was at the water treatment plant. Jake Morrison's radio had been right. Earth First had planted 6 large explosives there. If they went off, they would poison the town's water supply for years. Hundreds of people could die slowly from the contamination. Luna reached the plant and found the bombs already counting down. She had less than 3 minutes before they exploded. A normal person would have run away. Even a brave person would have called for help and hoped someone could defuse the bombs in time. But Luna was not normal, and she was Vel'shara, a species that had survived a galactic war. She carefully picked up all 6 explosive devices, holding them against her chest. They were heavy and unstable, beeping faster and faster. Luna knew what she had to do. She ran, faster than she had ever run before. Her legs blurred with speed as she raced toward the old quarry outside of town, a deep pit that had been abandoned for 20 years. If the bombs exploded there, no one would get hurt. Luna reached the quarry with only 15 seconds left on the timer. She jumped down into the deep pit and held the explosives close to her body. Then she did something incredible. The purple glow around her intensified into a brilliant shield of energy. When the bombs exploded with a massive boom that shook the ground for miles, Luna's energy field contained most of the blast. She directed the explosion upward into the sky, creating a spectacular column of light and force that looked like a purple lightning bolt striking in reverse. People all across Millbrook saw it. They came out of their homes and shelters, staring at the sky in wonder and fear. When the light finally faded, Luna climbed out of the quarry. She was exhausted and hurt. Her skin had burns and cuts all over it. Her legs shook with every step, but she was alive. She walked slowly back toward town as dawn began to break. The fires were mostly out now. Sheriff Chen and the volunteer firefighters had worked all night to save what they could. The Earth First terrorists were either arrested or had run away like cowards when they realized their plan had failed. Thomas was waiting for her at the edge of town. When he saw Luna limping toward him, covered in dirt and blood and burns, he ran to her and caught her just as her legs gave out. "I've got you," Thomas whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I've got you, Luna. You did it. You saved everyone." Luna smiled weakly. "Did I make you proud, Father?" "So proud," Thomas sobbed. "So incredibly proud." Luna closed her eyes and let herself rest in Thomas's arms. She had never felt so tired in her entire life. But she had also never felt so complete. She had repaid the man who saved her life. She had protected his town. She had shown everyone that aliens were not monsters to be feared. The crowd that gathered around them was silent at first. They looked at Luna with new eyes now, not with fear or hatred, but with gratitude and shame. This alien girl they would have driven away or hurt had just risked her life to save all of them. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian, was the first to speak. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for saving my grandson. He was in that school. My store would be ashes without you." Mr. Patterson added, his voice shaking. "You saved us all," said another voice. "We're sorry," someone else called out. "We're so sorry for how we treated you." Sheriff Chen pushed through the crowd and knelt down beside Luna and Thomas. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do," she said quietly. "Alien or human?" Jake Morrison stood at the back of the crowd, his head down in shame. He had been part of the group that brought this nightmare to Millbrook, but seeing Luna broken and bleeding after saving his town made him realize how wrong he had been about everything. Over the next few weeks, Millbrook slowly recovered. The buildings were repaired. The Earth First members were prosecuted and sent to prison. The federal government, hearing about what Luna had done, granted her special protected status as a Guardian-class refugee, the first of her kind. The town council held another meeting, but this time it was very different. They voted unanimously to make Luna an official resident of Millbrook, with full rights and protections. They also voted to rebuild Thomas's bakery, which had been damaged in the chaos, and they added a small apartment above it, specifically for Luna. The new sign above the bakery read, "Whitmore and Luna's Bakery, where everyone is family." Luna healed slowly. Her species had remarkable recovery abilities, and within a month, all her wounds were gone. But the emotional healing took longer. She had nightmares about the fire and the explosions. Sometimes she would wake up crying, afraid she had failed to save someone. But Thomas was always there. He would make her hot chocolate and sit with her until dawn, talking quietly about good memories and better days ahead. As time passed, Luna became part of Millbrook in ways Thomas had never imagined. Children who had once been taught to fear aliens now ran to hug her when they saw her on the street. She helped the elderly carry groceries. She volunteered at the school. She became the person everyone called when they needed help with anything. Luna never stopped protecting Millbrook. When storms came, she would check on the elderly and make sure everyone was safe. When a child went missing in the woods, Luna found them within hours. She became the town's guardian in every sense of the word. And every single morning at 5 o'clock, Luna and Thomas would begin their day together in the bakery. They would knead dough side by side, the human and the alien, the baker and the girl he had saved with a cinnamon roll. "Do you ever regret it?" Thomas asked one quiet morning. "Staying here? You could go anywhere now. The government would help you find other Vel'shara refugees. You could have a normal life." Luna smiled and bumped her shoulder against his affectionately. "This is my normal life, Thomas. This is my home. You are my family. These people are my people now." She looked out the window at the town waking up in the dawn light. "You taught me something important. You taught me that kindness creates ripples. One person feeding one hungry child can change the world. You changed my world, Thomas, and now I get to change the world for others." Thomas wiped his eyes and smiled. "Your mother and father would be so proud of who you've become. And your wife, Margaret, would be proud of you," Luna replied, foreseeing a monster and choosing to see a child instead. They finished preparing the morning's bread in comfortable silence. When the shop opened at 6 o'clock, the usual customers came in, but now they always stopped to say hello to Luna, too. She had become as much a part of Millbrook as the old church, the town square, and Thomas's famous cinnamon rolls. Years would pass, and the story of the baker and the alien girl would be told and retold. It would be a reminder that in a universe full of fear and hatred and war, simple acts of kindness still mattered most. One warm cinnamon roll on a cold morning had saved a life. That life had grown into something powerful enough to save an entire town, and those ripples of kindness continued spreading outward, touching more lives than Thomas or Luna would ever know. In a small bakery in a small town called Millbrook, an old human baker and a young alien guardian proved something important. That family is not about species or planet of origin. Family is about showing up every single day with love and kindness, no matter what. And every morning at 5 o'clock, as the smell of fresh bread filled the streets of Millbrook, the town remembered that beautiful truth.